night, what I was doing was discussing how to determine how much fabric you need when you're working on a quilt or doing the background work to decide how much fabric you will need for your quilt. Like how many yards of this print, how many yards of this print. So I just wanted to come back on and make sure we were all on the same page as the correct amount of fabric that's needed. Okay, so for this, we decide, so I said, okay, let's say I'm going to do a quilt that's 64 inches across and 68 inches going down, because I was informing you all that I don't like to do square quilts. I really like for my quilts to be a rectangle. So 64 inches across, 68 inches going down. We had said we were doing, the quilt will be made of 2-inch squares. So we said, so it was 32 squares across and 34 squares going down. So then we multiplied the 32 times 34, and that's how you determine how many squares you need for your quilt. So when I multiplied, so I got my calculator, so I did the 32 times 34 equals, it should come up with the 1088. So then if you look on the back, you see how I have this 1088 number. So that means that for that quilt, I would need a total of 1,088 squares. Hi, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate you watching my video. Thank you so much. So for a quilt, that's what I'm saying. I'm discussing yardage tonight. As a quilter, how to determine how much yardage you need for a quilt. So it's a quilt that's 64 inches across, 68 inches going down. We're working, the finished size of the quilt will be, the finished size of each square will be 2 inches. So that means we will cut 2.5-inch squares. So then, oh, thank you. Okay, so then we decided we would do 8 prints. So you take the 1,088 number and you divide 1,088 and divide 1,088 by 8. Okay, then we came up with 136. That means you're going to need 130. So you got 8 prints. So you take the total amount of squares, 1,088, and divide it by 8, because we have 8 prints. So when you take the 1,088 divided by 8, we came up with 136. That means from each of those 8 prints, you're going to need a cut 136 squares. So then we took the 136. So we did the 2.5-inch squares, and then the fabric, I said we would have a total usage of, from one 2.5-inch strip of fabric, we would have one 2.5-inch strip of fabric, we would have 40, for each strip of fabric, we would have 40 inches of fabric we could use for cutting, or usable fabric. So then we would take 40 and divide it by 2.5. That would let us know how many squares, how many 2-inch squares we would cut, we could cut from a 40-inch strip of fabric. So we came up with 16. So that means, so then you take 16, and then we need a total of 136 squares for the print. So when we took 136 and divided by 16, we came up with 8. Okay, so that means we need about 8 strips of fabric, 8 2.5-inch strips of fabric. So then when we took 8 and multiplied it times 16, we came up with 128. That means from this 8 strips, you're not going to have 136. That's how we end up having to get a 9th strip. So that means I would probably use a total of 10 strips to make sure I had enough, because sometimes the ruler might slip. So you can do your calculations and come up with a certain amount of fabric or a number, but I always at least would say cut at least a additional strip in case something goes wrong with the strips that you cut. So we came up with the 128. That's not 136, so that means you're gonna have to get an additional strips. So that's how we came up with the number 9. So I would say at least cut 10 strips but just for the sake of the bare bones, you at least need to cut. You'll need to cut the 9 strips. So you will end up having to cut only 8 2.5-inch squares from this 9th strip, because the 8 strips is going to give you the 126. And then this is where I made an error at last night, but I came back and corrected it, but I don't know if everyone was present when I made the correction. So when I took 2.5 inches and multiplied it times 9, I came up with 22.5. So that means this is the amount of yardage you're going to need for each print. So that's 22.5 inches. So for this number, I would probably get 24 inches, which would be 3/4 yards. So I probably wouldn't go and be like, oh, give me 22.5 inches of fabric. No, I would say give me a 3/4 yard, because that 3/4 yard is going to be 24 inches, because it's 12, 12, 12. No, 3/4 yard. Hold on. 3/4 yard, isn't that 24 inches? Because it's 8 times, hold on, now let me get 9, 27 inches. I would get 27 inches, because that'll be 3/4 yard, unless you want to do it small, to do it the 24 number. For that would be, if I want to just do it, you don't have to do the 27 yards. You can actually do 24, not 27 yards, 27 inches. You don't have to do 27 inches. You can do 24 inches, because 27 inches is going to be 3/4 yards. So 24 inches would be 2/3, because it's 12, 12, 12. The 3/4 yard would be 9 4 times. The 2/3 yards are going to be 12 3 times. So you need two of those thirds for 24 inches. 12 plus 12 is 24. So for this 24, so you need to be aware of that. So because you don't want to waste your money, especially when you paying, if you go to a quilt shop, it may be fabric in there that's $11, $12 a yard. So each little bit really counts. So I wouldn't get no more than I really needed. So we came out with 22.5 inches. So for this number right here, I would get 24 inches of fabric, which would be 2/3 yard. So you just rounded up the number up to the nearest amount of yard that you could get, whether people knew what you were talking about. Because if you go in there and ask for 22.5 inches of fabric, they're going to look at you so crazy and be like, why are you doing that? So that's it. So that's it for that quilt. And then so you would just need to get 8 prints. You would need to get 2 2/3 yards, or 24 inches for each print, and then you will have enough for that quilt. And then I have said, what if we want to do 4-inch finished squares? But then you would just double the number. That's all. You would have less squares. So you would take the 1088 number and divide it by 2. So you would, for 4-inch squares, you would just take half of this, and that'll be the amount of squares you needed for a 4-inch of 4-inch squares. If you were gonna do the 64-inch by 68-inch quilt is 4-inch squares. And then I said, when I went to the 5-inch finished size squares. So then I said, for the 5-inch squares, I would do a quilt that's 65 by 70, because I'm not doing a big size quilt. It's just something for me to be comfortable in, not necessarily something to cover a whole bed. So we said 65 by 70 would be the quilt size, 65 inches times 70 inches. And then, so we had said that we would, so you take 5 and divide, 65 divided by 5 is 13, and then 70 divided by 5 was 14. So then you multiply the amount of squares going down times the across times the square. You multiply. In order to determine how many squares you need to cut for the quilt, you multiply the amount of squares going across, which for this quilt is 13, times the amount of squares going down, which would for this quilt was 14. So then we came out with needing 122 squares. Then we decided, I said we were going to use for this quilt 7 prints. So then we decide for the 7 prints, you would need 26 squares for each print. Okay. So then we said we're going to get, for 40 inches, cutting 5.5-inch squares, we would get 7 squares from each 5.5 strip of fabric. So then 7 times, so we need 26 squares. So then we would say 7 squares would give us, how many? We getting 7 squares from each strip of fabric. We need a total of 26 squares. So we would have 7 squares, 26 squares. So then we would end up with needing 4 strips. And then 4 times 7 would be a total of 28 squares, but we will only need 26 of those squares. So then for this print, that means we would need 4 5.5-inch strips of fabric to get the 26 squares. So then you would take 5.5 multiplied times 4, which would be 22, because it's 5 times 4 is 20, then plus 4 halves is 22. So then you would need 22 inches of fabric for each print. So then again, that would be the 24 number, which would be 2/3 yards, because it would be 12 plus 12 would be 24. So I would say cut 24 inches of fabric so that you can get 22. You would need the 22 inches of those 24 inches. But the 24 inches, as I said, would be 2/3 yards. Okay, so that's that. And then later in other lives, I will do more quilts. You know, decide how much, help you to determine how much yardage you need for different size quills, cutting different size squares. So we've done the 4 inch, we have done 2 inches, 4 inches, this is 5, so maybe, we'll do 6, 7, 8, and so forth and so on. So that's how you do that. So this here, like I said 1,000 times, I really don't buy patterns. What I do is right here, where I would just take some graph paper and design it out something like this. And, each number is a print. And then this is designed for this. I think this ended up being a patchwork placemat. And it's, if you look on my videos, it's the placemat where it's a Valentine's theme, and it's half square triangles, and it's basically trip around the world half square triangles, and this came out to be really beautiful. So that's the design. This is the graph where I don't buy these people's patterns. I take graph paper and I design out my quilts, and I give each print a number, and I'll decide how many squares I need to cut, and I determine the yardage as I just informed you all. So then this is where I decide. So once I do design out the graph, then I will go and count how much of each number is listed in the design. Then I come down here and I write the number for each print, and beside it, so for print number 1, I would need to cut 5 squares. So that's how you do that. And then 2, I would need, I needed 5. I had a total number of 5 half square triangles, so I would cut 3 squares because I would end up with 6 6 squares, and then I would cut those. No, I would take 1 means I have 5 half square, because this is a half square triangle quilt design. So when I come down here for the number 1, that means I have 5 half square triangles. So I would cut 3 squares, because you can, for some of them, you can kind of rotate them. So you can use both sides. So then at 3 squares would end up with 6 half square triangles. And then I would need only 5. So that's how I do that. And as you all come in, please make sure you like, share my videos, subscribe to my channel, make comments in the chat. So that's how I would really appreciate that if you all would subscribe and comment and chat, because they say YouTube really likes for you to do that. So this is just the design that I did for half square triangles, and then this is the little key that I do to determine how much I need of each print. Now so then, and then sometimes, depending on how the print is done, you may not be able to use both sides. So it all depends on how it looks. Because you don't want something in there that's upside down, side by side. So you have to make sure for this. So in this design, this is a half square triangle, and this line goes this way. So that means this is the way you would cut this square. Otherwise, if you cut it going this way, when you lay the half square triangles out in this manner, the prints, they won't look right, because you cut this square in the wrong direction. So you cut, whenever you're doing a half square design, you have to pay attention to whatever direction this line here goes in, because it's going to tell you which way to cut that square for that quilt design. And then so I have another graph paper. Now this is where I drew out some pinwheels. And for pinwheels, it's very important for you to make sure that all your pinwheels go in the same direction. Otherwise, it won't look right. So they're all supposed to go in the same direction. But see, for this pinwheel design, you can see where this line goes in different directions. So see, this line goes this way. So that's the way for this square. This is the way you would have to cut this block. Now then as this design, you would have to cut it going in that direction. You would cut that square going in that direction. So that's something you have to really pay attention to when you're working with half square triangles. And so this is my graph paper where I've drawn out a bunch of pinwheels. And this is how I do my quilting designs. I just draw it out on paper. Then I will go and give each print a number, and then I will calculate how many squares, how many half square triangles, and then I will go from there as far as determining how much fabric I need of each print. So this is my graph paper where I've designed out some pinwheels for a pinwheel quilt project. So as I informed you all last night, I am currently working on doing a mug rug, a postage stamp mug rug. So these are just a few squares that I cut last night. So this print is really pretty. And then I have marked the top, as you can see there. Okay, and so this is another little postage stamp block I cut last night for my upcoming mug rug. And then if you look on the back, there's the top. That's the top of that square. So when I go to lay my squares out, this top will just go down like that, so the T is on the top. And then that's just a few of my other little squares that I cut last night. That's one. That's one. And I want to make sure I cut this square where this star won't get cut off in the selvage. So in the finished design, we'll see if that star ends up not the selvage in the seam line. So hopefully when I sew this square onto my mug rug, the star won't get cut off. So only time will tell. So that's that square. And these squares are cut at 1.5 inches because the finished side for a postage stamp item is a 1-inch square. So these are 1.5-inch squares that I cut. So I'm just showing you a few of the ones I cut last night. I need a total of 108. Because I like my mug rugs to be 12 inches across and 9 inches going down. So 12 times 9 is 108. So I need 108 squares. And I'm almost halfway there. So that's there for that square. And then this is this square. And then that's the back. I'll show you the back where I put the little T for the top of the square. So you make sure you lay it out properly. And then there's that square. That's cute. And then this square, now this is one I was really happy to cut last night. Now some of this is going to be cut off in the selvage, but at least I have enough. The design is so big, you know, that it still would show pretty. So it's like this was like a Christmas print. So this is a peppermint, and then that's the top. So then the majority of it will still show. So now it'd have been cute, really been cute if I would have had enough, could have cut enough around to where the peppermint part wouldn't get cut out, but I don't think that was possible because it was just a little strip I barely had. So there's the print. And then this is a print. So I'm just showing you all some of the little postage stamp squares that I cut last night. Thanks for everyone for stopping by, and thanks for coming in the chat, and whoever hit the like button, I really appreciate that. You know, they really love for you all to hit the like button and subscribe and watch for, you know, the videos. So in this purple now, I really like this purple. So this one I cut last night. And So these are just a few I cut last night. These are just a few of my postage stamp squares I cut last night for my upcoming mug rug. And this one. So I think these are pretty nice. Yeah, so that's all. I just came back for the most part, to just make the correction on how much fabric was needed for those quilt sizes that I was discussing last night. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe to my channel. Go and watch some of my other videos if you don't mind. I really need to get my watch hours up. But yeah, this is just some more of my little postage stamp squares. I cut some last night. And if you all have any questions concerning quilting, you can ask them in the chat or make a comment for the replay, and I will answer them for you. These are just some little squares for postage stamp. And like I said, postage stamps are squares that the finish size is 1 inch. So these are squares that I've cut at 1.5 inches. And then I said I would cut some more tonight, and hopefully by Saturday I'll have 108 cut. That's what I was saying. When you quilt, don't try to do it all in one day. Just pace yourself so don't you get yourself tired. But yeah, this is just some of my postage stamp squares for my upcoming mug rug. So it's gonna be really pretty because I'm really good at picking out pretty prints. So I ain't worried about that part. Yeah, so just make sure you subscribe, watch my videos, comment, share my videos, press the like button if you like it. Yep, these are just some of my little squares I cut. And then I'll cut a little more until I get all done. That's how I do it. And then you don't tire yourself out because you're not trying to do it all in one day. That takes the fun out of it. And then you're not in a race. I'm making this for myself. It's not like somebody was like, do this for me. And they said when they really, I had a long person tell me, them people, they really were them people to get them quilts done. Like rush. But I quit my own stuff. I just do that. I have my own little sewing machine, so I just do all my quilting stuff on my sewing machine. I eventually gonna do a little applique, machine applique. I do have a little the little foot. Is it an open toe foot or some little foot you need for applique? I already got that. And I wanted to do Sunbunny Sue, Sunbunny Sam. But really Sunbunny Sam. And so, and then I was telling you all when I have a quilt project, and this is how I keep up with how many squares I cut. I just do it in fives, and then strike. And see, now, I do have this print. These are some half square triangles that I had that I didn't use from a previous project. I just posted that probably the week before last. So what I would do, my goal would be, See, for this design, I needed the bottom half of this square. So I end up with a bunch of these top ones left. So for this print, my goal would be to cut around America to where America wouldn't get cut off. So I would just measure, uh, make sure I'm out at least a 1/4 inch from when I measure. Make sure the 1/4 inch line is outside of all sides of the America. So that will let me know that it won't get caught up in the seam. So we have this, right? So then you take it, where's mine? Because it's going to be 1.5 inch squares, right? So you take this and then you put it, let's see. So then you would position it. So you would have to cut this half square triangle down to where you could make sure that, so then you would do it. So then you would have to cut this down and then till you get to where this America was inside that 1/4 inch line for the seam. So if you did it like that, so then I could probably, let's see. So that's, you would have to figure out how to cut it where you would end up with America inside the seam line. So I would have to cut this down till I got to that point. Let's see if one of these other half square triangles have, see, I got some smaller ones too. But for the most part, these are so small that America pretty much got cut out. And then I want America inside the seam line. So that one might, I don't know if this piece is even a 1/2 inch, if it's even possible. Let's see. No. No, you can't even use it. That's too small. So then that's not gonna work. So then, like I said, I would have to take one of these and cut it down to where America was inside the seam line. So we also need to make sure that America is longer than, let's see, longer than the 1 inch. So yeah, so if that's the 1 inch, then if this square is 1 inch, then it's, you barely, it's getting a little bit, it's still gonna, the tip is gonna be cut off, but you could have the majority of it. So I guess you could use this. This is 1 inch, I guess, right here. So you could use that to see that it's still gonna get cut off maybe right there. But you have to position it to see, you know, to get as much of it as you can. That's all I'm trying to say. But yeah, so thank you all for stopping by. Please like, share, subscribe to my channel. Make sure you go and watch some of my other videos. I am trying to get my watch hours up. Thanks for watching. Check you later.